Welcome to FBB Forum. If you like these interviews, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm very pleased to welcome the stunning IFBB Pro women's bodybuilder, Tina Mauer-Guadarrama. Tina has been competing since 2014 and earned her pro card at the Pittsburgh Pro in 2016. Welcome, Tina. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I was curious in terms of when you getting started in bodybuilding, did you have an athletic or sports background before you started competing?
Nothing really like specific. I just was very active as a child, did a lot of stuff outdoors.
Okay.
Just worked hard around outside but no specific like athletic sports in particular. So
Really? That's cool. How did you get started in bodybuilding and who convinced you to do your first contest?
um well, that one's a little bit to make a long story short. When I was in college, I was dating a bodybuilder at that time
Okay.
and dared me to do one, and so I took him up on the dare. So that was my first one in 1995. I
Oh,
did
wow.
one, and
Uh-huh.
then because I was still in school, but and then in November of 2013, I was kind of approached at the gym by one of my fellow friends. It's like, oh, you should compete, and I was like, no, I already know what that's like. I don't. I already have 4 kids, so I'm like, I can't manage that and work and everything.
Yeah.
At me, and then she's like, "Oh, we have a team starting here in town. Why you just meet everybody?" So I was like, "Okay." And then I started training in October of 2013 for bodybuilding specifically.
Wow. How old were your kids at that time when you started?
Um, so they would have been 13, 10, 7, and 4.
Wow. That must have been a lot to juggle with the kids like that. Yeah.
Single mama 4, yeah, it was a lot to juggle.
Wow. That's so cool. That's really impressive though. That's great. How old were you when you started bodybuilding? Or the in the
So I
2013?
I was 39, almost 40, and I competed in March and then turned 40 in May of 2014. So
Wow. That's
old,
really
older, old start.
that's really impressive though. I think that's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious, like when did you feel your first kind of I believe I belong here in the gym kind of moment? Because I think a lot of people, kind of feel intimidated by gyms.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Probably when I started competing and started specifically training, that's like, it was kind of like my therapy.
Mm,
Um, and I just felt like that's where I belong. That's like my stress reliever.
mhm.
That's like time where I had to myself without work and all my kids and everyone else. So I
Yeah.
just took and just kind of went from there and just stuck to it.
Wow, that's really cool. That's great. Very cool. Yeah, I think that's a barrier to entry for some folks to get into bodybuilding just because they're like, I don't know, a little bit tentative about being in the gym or feel they just don't, I don't know, they don't necessarily belong because they don't necessarily know what they're doing or whatever. So I think it takes a little while to do that.
Does I mean I have a history of like I do in-home physical therapy, so I have a background in the exercise, so in therapeutic healing. So
That's
kind of
great.
had an introduction back in college.
Okay.
So
Yeah. You're still doing that too now?
currently still work full time. Yep, single
Wow.
mom.
Wow, that's impressive. Wow. Um, I was curious when you first started competing, was it tough for you to kind of get up on stage in a bikini for the first time? And was it kind of nerve-wracking? And do you still get
Oh,
nervous these days?
so yeah, I still get nervous even these days, but being up on the stage and next to nothing was huge for me.
Yeah.
Um, I was one who never even really wore shorts. prior to that.
Really?
Very never catch me in a swimsuit. Um, I kind of use that to kind of pull myself out of a box because I'm kind of a quiet personality,
Yeah.
and I just use that as like something that was more progressive that kind of pulled me out of like my little shell,
Okay.
and I went from there.
That's
Um,
terrific. Yeah. That's something I just had a interview with Jeannie Welker, who's another pro bodybuilder, and she said kind of the same thing. She's just always been a real introverted kind of person, but um, the stage, she feels comfortable on the stage, and kind of, she kind of feels like she belongs there, and yeah, I've heard that from other folks too. Now, I was curious, what was your last competition, and where can we expect to see you on stage again?
so my last competition was the Tampa Pro in 2022. So that's when I first did my first women's bodybuilding competition. But prior to that was women's physique.
Great. Are you still going to stick with bodybuilding this year?
And I have a new coach this year, um, that I started with in October, and so we're just trying to put on as much size as I can, and kind of go from there. I definitely ahead of where I was at last year.
That's
With this,
great. Do you know where you would like to compete this year?
because there's not a lot of competitions this year, and I'm on the West Coast, and there's not
Mhm.
a whole here. Um, Not totally sure. I may dabble possibly in the Rising Phoenix, but that's not set in stone right
Okay,
now. So that's a goal,
that's
but we'll see.
terrific. Yeah. I actually saw you compete in Tampa last year. I live in Tampa, but yeah, you looked really good on stage. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you come back on stage again. Sure.
Yeah, I feel better this time because that was my first one, so I was really nervous and had a lot of changes and coaches, and posing's different, and kind of happened like 6 weeks before I actually went over there to Tampa. So
Oh, really?
learning experience. Here we go. So it was a good very good learning. Two of my kids went with me there. So,
Great.
or yeah,
That's kind of sounds like what Sherry Priami did last year. I think she was only like 2 weeks out before she switched to bodybuilding, and yeah, I think it was a little nerve-wracking for her too.
oh yeah, because it's definitely a whole nother level.
And just getting to learning all the poses and everything, it is a lot different. Yeah. So yeah. I was curious, like, what was your favorite bodybuilding show that you've competed in and why?
Um, Probably so the Van Island Showdown I did last May.
Hmm.
Um, it was an amazing show. I hadn't competed since 2019, so that was my first like step back into it, and just everyone there was amazing. It was very well run in a beautiful place. It was nice to kind of like get out and see other areas, but I would recommend it to anyone because it was just so well run and you felt really loved and like made it like you were making a difference and very respected. So
That's great. I know that's like coming up in April 23rd, so coming up really soon now. Yeah. That's like the only West Coast pro show for women's bodybuilding, I think, too. Yeah. I know it's weird that there's none in California, really. It's yeah.
I was like, man, we need one, at least one.
I know, yeah. Even like Legions is only physique. I don't think you have bodybuilding there. So yeah. And that's in Reno. So yeah. I was curious, like, what was it like to get your pro card? Was it really exciting for you? Kind of like a milestone?
It was a huge milestone. My coaches at the time were there, and then one of my other teammates. The rest of my family weren't able to come, but it's kind of surreal because you work so hard, and then it's like you finally like get to your 1 year goals, and just feels amazing. And then you feel then you have your next like milestone that you reach.
Yeah.
But I was very extremely excited because the juggle between life and work and kids was it's a lot of work even to this day.
I
It's
bet. Yeah. Yeah. And you said you're a single mom too, right? Wow, that's yeah, it's gotta be really challenging, I bet. At least your kids are getting into teenage years or older now.
way easier now. I'm like, thank goodness.
Yeah, they're a little more self-sufficient now, huh? I was curious, in terms of your prep, what is like the most challenging aspect of prep for you?
So when I'm in prep, I'd have to say again, it's still like your work and your life, and like still making sure that I'm connected with my family and my kids,
Hmm.
and making sure that they still feel like they're existing because you get focused, super laser focused on what you need to do, and then everything comes with it, you know.
Yeah,
And hard making sure that I still do things with them, even though you're in prep. I still go if they go out to eat. I bring my food. Like
hmm.
I let that stop me because I don't feel like it's fair to them because they didn't choose it, but they're supportive of it.
That's
Um,
good. Yeah,
and and then making sure that I keep an even keel because I'm
yeah,
having to work like all day long. So sometimes it can get challenging, you
yeah,
know,
I bet.
but I chose it. So
Yeah, that's really cool. That's good that your kids are supportive too.
definitely.
Yeah. Now, do you find you get kind of like little bit of prep brain going on and it's hard to focus and it seems like it'd be tough, especially the few weeks leading up to a show.
Definitely. My last prep was probably my best one because
Mm,
we food up so high that it wasn't. No, there's no prep that's easy, but
yeah.
some are others. And last year wasn't as bad as it has been.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
Good.
so yeah, it's just making sure I stay on an even keel and kind
Yeah,
of like keep a balance.
I
So,
understand. I was curious, do you have you mentioned a coach, but a prep coach and opposing coach, now?
but right now I have a prep coach. It's Team Courtney. I have Mike Courtney as my coach now.
Okay.
Um, and I've been with him since October,
Okay,
and
great.
his wife are amazing. Love him, super supportive. So
Very good.
I don't right now. I don't have a posing coach. I'm still trying to figure out who I want to kind of connect with.
Okay, sure. Have you used posing coach in the past?
I have,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, great. Very cool. I'm going to be interviewing Sharonica Hinton tomorrow, and she's a really good posing coach, so you might have to talk with her. I was curious, what advice can you give to like up and coming competitors who are looking for a good coach?
I would have to say, really do your research, look at their background, and make sure that you can really like kind of jive with your coach, and that you guys have a good connection
Mhm.
because they're not only like doing your diet and they're helping you with training or they're helping with things, but you have like that emotional support you need
Mhm.
as well, encompassed in like the whole aspect of it, because it's, as you well know, it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, the whole gamut.
Mhm. Yeah.
The more support you can have, and the ability to be able to trust them and get along with them is like the key of success, I think.
Great. Very cool. Yeah, I understand. That's good advice. My next question actually, Andrea Sawyer had talked about in a recent interview about utilizing an emotional coach for prep. So yeah, so what are your thoughts about that? You mentioned that a little bit, but she had like a separate emotional coach too.
I mean, I think it definitely would be beneficial.
Yeah.
um, I don't have one, but I think if you could afford it and it's something you really need, then go for it because it can only help. There's no way it can't help but help you build up more confidence and security and find what your insecurities are to make yourself better and to be
Yeah.
strong.
That's good advice. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know that, but that's another big expense too. I know, and bodybuilding's already so expensive. Uh-huh. Yeah, we need to print some bodybuilding bucks or something like that to old currency. um so we already talked about your kids, but I was curious, so you said that they're supportive, they like they don't mind that you're a bodybuilder?
No. So I have 2 boys and 2 girls.
Yeah.
3 or work out very consistently. The one he does, but not as much. My oldest daughter, she trains with me sometimes, so she's into it. I took her with me to Omaha last year in Tampa,
Yeah.
just so she get from the start to the finish, like everything that's involved in it. So
Yeah.
I'm like, she's interested in competing, but I was like, well, you need to see the whole thing and then decide. I thought for sure she was gonna be like, no. And by the time we were done at Tampa, she goes, no, I think I want to do one. So I was like,
Wow.
okay,
How
so
old
we'll
is
see.
she?
She's 17.
17? Really? Wow, that's cool. So
Mm,
maybe she got kind of hooked when she saw how the whole process was.
Yep, she's a little beast in the gym now.
Really? Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah,
That's so cool. That'd be cool to have like a whole bodybuilding family going on there.
exactly.
Um, I was curious, are your parents still alive?
My parents are still alive. Um,
Are they supportive of your career, bodybuilding career?
um, they are supportive, but probably my mom more is a little more reluctant. But I think it's more uh, just because they kind of get worried, because your body goes through such extreme like cycles, ups and downs, and you're lean, and then you're not as lean, and then you
Hmm.
know whole gamut. But otherwise, they're very supportive. They
Hmm.
both cancer survivors, and when I got my pro card the year before I got my pro card, my mom was fighting through cancer, and she
Oh,
had made a posing suit and like bedazzled it and did the whole works for me 1 year.
oh,
So
really? Wow.
yeah,
That's so sweet. That's really cool.
she's very. My parents amazing, love them.
That's terrific. That's so cool. Yeah. I was thinking about that, like parents being from a different generation and not
Oh
so
yeah,
sure.
my dad's supportive, but he's like, "That's all you're wearing," and I'm like, "Yeah,
That's what I was going to say. Is like, is it what do they feel about you being on a bikini on stage? It's their daughter up there.
yeah." Back of the clothing than you being up there.
Oh man, I did actually one time. I think it was a stepdad, but I was sitting next to stepdad and a mom of a bikini competitor, and the dad was kind of cute because he kept averting his eyes whenever his stepdaughter would be on stage, and especially when she'd turn around and showing
Yeah,
her glutes, and I was like, it was just kind of cute. I thought it was funny.
yeah, it's cute.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about being a physical therapist, in-home physical therapist. How long have you been doing that? And when did you get your PT? Did you get a license and degree?
Actually, I'm a physical therapist assistant.
Oh, okay.
In that sense, I still do home health, but I've worked in different settings, and I've been doing it for 28 years now.
Wow, really? Wow.
So kind of I worked outpatient. I've worked almost every setting except for in the hospital. I knew that wasn't like quite not my cup of tea. So
Sure. Yeah. How did your coworkers feel about your bodybuilding career?
I love it.
Yeah,
All of them. Yeah, they're very, very supportive and very inspirational and motivating.
great.
So I've never had any bad feedback from them at
Really?
all.
How about like your patients and stuff? Do they, when they see you
Ac-
come in, they're like, whoa.
Uh, usually not negative. I've only had like maybe one or two, and it's not really like negative. They just kind of will take a step back, like, whoa. Most of them are really like, wow, that's cool. You got nice guns, and or they'll make some little comment, you know. But
That's
most of
great.
them, so you kind of stand out, and they're like, oh, you're the one that they were talking about. And I'm like,
Oh, I see. Yeah, you'll be memorable that way too, I bet. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They're pre-warned before I come, so I
Uh-huh.
was like,
That's terrific. That's very cool. Um, and in terms of, kind of juggling the work and we talked a little bit about this, but juggling work and home life and bodybuilding career, is it tough to do that? Are you getting enough sleep? I think it would be tough to do everything that you want to do or need to do.
I, I try. Of course, because I'm off season right now or growing season. Um, I'm getting plenty of sleep. Um, the sleep kind of cycles change a little bit when I'm in prep, but
Mhm.
I really worked hard over the last few years to try and listen and make sure I get more rest than when I did the first like 2, 3 years.
Okay.
Uh, like the training, the intensity, and the lack of sleep then that I used to do as opposed to now is a big difference.
I bet. Yeah. Probably really improved your health too, I bet, because sleep is so important. Yeah. That's really cool. Now, my last few questions are just kind of a little miscellaneous, but I was curious, several women I've spoken with have talking about how it's tough kind of mentally to go from, being stage lean to the bulking phase and off-season shape. How do you deal with that? Do you kind of have like a body dysmorphia type thing, or is it
Oh
not
yeah,
so bad for you?
I
Yeah.
think all of body dysmorphia. um, I really struggle with that one a lot. Now because I'm at the heaviest weight that I've ever been,
Hmm.
other people don't see us the way that we see ourselves
Yeah.
first, and you almost feel like, I'm only gonna myself, but you go from being super lean and then not lean, and it's like people. It's probably my perception that people are like, oh, you let yourself go, and like, wow, you go from here to here, and in like no time flat, and like you're not taking care of yourself, and you're like, I just think I have to kind of take a step back and kind of like, this is for your health. This is what you need. You need to be able to grow and heal after
Mhm.
competing. But it's not realistic to be able to stay that lean anyway, and it's not healthy. So
That's true.
um, you kind of always just have to like kind of put that in your head, like you need this for you. You need it for your health and for healing. So
That's true.
emotionally, so it's less, in some ways it's less stressful. Well, of course there's stresses either way, but um I just have to kind of just remind myself, and my friends help remind myself because I'm like, here I go, I'm in my fluffy season, and they're
Uh-huh.
like, what? I'm just like, so
Do you find it's tough for people who don't do bodybuilding to really kind of understand that you go through those changes too?
yeah,
Because they might not really understand that just not being working in the sport or being in the sport.
mm, definitely.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends. Like my circles of friends have kind of changed. Like the more involved I've gotten into bodybuilding, so you just
Sure.
have people supportive of you, and you just embrace them and be with them and let them help. You kind of help each other,
Hmm.
help keep you lifted up and motivated. So
Sure. That makes sense. Now, what would you do to improve the sport of bodybuilding and how would you try to make the sport better?
I love them. uh, man, there's like I guess. Well, for me, I'd like them to have a lot more competition, especially on the West Coast, would be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Having a little more consistency and continuity with like with I hope I'm not throwing myself under the bus here.
No.
And just making it more like desirable and equitable between like men and women's bodybuilding.
Uh-huh.
Um, so there's a little more equality on as far as that aspect. Um,
Sure.
I mean, it is a sport. It's a subjective sport. So
Yeah, that's true. And it kind of depends on the judging panel so much. I mean, it varies so much, and yeah, it really varies a lot.
as a hard spot because you can listen to the judging and then you'll work towards that goal and then you go to the next show and the next competition and then you're like, okay, I did what you were asking me, but now I'm not placing very well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's got to be kind of irritating, I imagine.
Sometimes I'm just like you, and sometimes you just know what you need to work on anyway. Like I
Hmm.
won't feedback because I'm just like I already know what I need to work on. Like you can compare, you compare yourself. Okay, who's in the top? What do they look like? So you already know what you kind of need to like work on if you, because we all have our flaws and we all have our assets, and you know it's just bringing those out and just trying to bring your body up to how you think that's what they're looking for, the X frame,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, as a fan, I do wish it would be nice if there were more West Coast shows, but just more shows for women's bodybuilding in general, because it seems like now there's fewer than ever, this year particularly.
back there was definitely a lot more last year.
Yeah, I know. And they cut back on the physique shows too, women's physique. So yeah, I know. But that's something that's come up too on this podcast is there's a lot of inconsistency with the judging, um, from show to show, and it's hard to tell what the judges are looking for, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, I was curious, have you spoken directly with the judges at your competitions? And you mentioned you kind of know what feedback you need to improve on, or what, but have you gotten feedback from them on improving your physique directly?
Um, some of my competitions, but I didn't with all of them.
Sure.
Uh, I just the first two I did, and then once I went up into bodybuilding, I already knew. Like going in, I was like, okay, I know where I need my work. So
Okay.
I just kind of we developed the game plan and are working on it now. So that's why I'm not totally sure whether I'll compete this year or not, or wait till next year.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Very cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think I mentioned I really like your abs. I think your abs are amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I was curious in terms of what would you say is like the most kind of memorable standout moment of your bodybuilding career?
Um, Probably I'd have to say the Van Island showdown last year.
Yeah.
It just stuck out in my mind a lot. Just because, well, one I did better, but like it was very well run,
Hmm.
and probably like the second most memorable, or maybe the first, was when 2019 I did my first pro show and at Rising Phoenix, and Linda Murray was there, and I was just like, oh my word,
Oh,
just
wow.
her in person for the first time instead of like seeing her. I used to look at her in magazines when I was a little bit younger, and I was just like in awe, and
Uh-huh.
so amazing and sweet, and it was just kind of surreal because I was like, wow, all the competitors there were like super like top notch, and that was a very well run competition then too.
I,
That's probably
I
my
That's very cool. I actually got to meet Linda a couple times, and she is super sweet, and she's such a great ambassador for the sport. And I like the fact that she's a promoter for some of the shows too, which is terrific.
exactly.
Now, I was curious, I didn't have this as a question list, but would you be interested in being a judge or a promoter sometime down the road? And maybe after competing?
Um, maybe a promoter. I'm not sure about judging.
Uh-huh.
A gumption to sit through, like I feel bad for them, like all the competitors that you have to sit through, like in that whole day, and then how do you like equally decide? I think it's a hard job,
Yeah.
like decide because there's so many good like competitors, and it's just like having to pick and choose between all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a promoter over a judge. I'm not saying that I would never do it, but if the opportunity came up, I probably would do it.
That's great. I think that'd be really cool. That'd be kind of neat to do too. I think, and certainly, helping promote the sport. That's kind of baked into the word, I guess. But yeah, that would be great. And you could get more West Coast shows or add a West Coast show, maybe. Yeah,
That's a good idea.
that would be cool. Now, I was wondering if that was my last question. I didn't know, but if there's anything that I should have asked you that I neglected to that you'd like to bring up here.
Um, I don't think so. I mean, I think you kind of covered all the bases. So
Very cool.
appreciate you and what you're doing and trying to help put female bodybuilding out there a little more and promote it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, the podcast has been going really well, and I've gotten some really good feedback on it. So I appreciate that.
Great.
Would you mind doing a quick flex for me?
Yeah.
All right. Wow, your arm's looking great.
A little bigger.
Yeah, you look awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you're putting on some size for your next show for sure.
Yeah, I'm about am I good like 15, almost 20 pounds heavier than last year.
Wow, really? Wow.
Well, at the start, yeah. So we'll see.
And what's your height and weight right now?
I'm 5'3", and I'm sitting about like 180, 182.
Wow, very cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna root for you at your next show. Um,
Working.
thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and include your Instagram and Mike Courtney as well down below when I post this, and I'll get this posted soon. But thanks again, Tina. I really appreciate you coming on with me, and best wishes to you in your future bodybuilding career.
You appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.